The 18th of August 2023. After a few good days, we're dull today. There's a little bit of drizzle. It's back a little sort of wintry sort of weather here in rural Ireland for the moment. Well, a lot of good work was done in the last few days, and an awful lot of crop was saved. And the weather forecast was fairly accurate, I have to say that. Now, this is Liars, Cars on Fire, and where I tackle part of the green agenda, that is electric cars and EV fires, and my video on McDonald's restaurant. Now, the first thing is, there has been a comment by McDonalds 100, in which he says that I don't do myself any service by making these claims or putting forward various theories about what happened. And Cats Can Fly also commented underneath something a bit less about EV cars. But the thing about it is, the first thing to look about that comment is that those comments, particularly this one here, they're hard to remember, Mankazeb 100, is that I'm not doing myself any service. The minute I hear any of those buzzwords, I tend to turn off. There are so many of these types of buzzwords out there. You're not doing any favours for yourself. I mean, I'm not in the business of doing myself favours with anybody. That day expired years and years ago. You hear these phrases like neoliberals, neocons, and all this. There's no proper definition. I've tried to define the word woke, all right. There's no real proper definition. Neo, that you're partly that way or you're partly the other way. Well, you could say you're leaning in a certain direction, all right, but it could be a football game between Longford and Westmeath, and you might lean a bit towards supporting Westmeath, maybe. That could be, but it's not a very objective way of using those sort of words. And the other thing I notice, and I hear it a lot, including the very, very good economist Peter Schiff, is people saying in a video or a talk, you know. So I'm going to say now, we'll say, the weather could have been worse, could have been worse, or he's not getting any younger, he's not getting any younger. Now, it's hard to take up specific examples, but if you're talking to somebody and you say you have to answer the question yourself. If he knew, why is he asking you? Right? So you very rarely hear me saying That was drilled into me from a very early stage by my people, some of whom were teachers. If we knew, we wouldn't be asking. So it's terrible to hear it, and I must try to get that across to Peter Schiff, man of great time for, a great American economist. But the thing about it is, and he keeps saying, there's no place for Now, the thing about my video, there has been a burning down of the McDonald's fast food outlet in Newbridge, I think it is, in County Kildare in Ireland. And these huts or buildings are nearly identical all over Ireland. What struck me was the ferocity in which the roof burned. As I understand it, they're roofed with composite panels. I won't mention any supplier. Composite panels, which is a layer of protective plastic coat, a layer of mild steel, which is protected by the above plastic coat, the composite material, which is an insulating type of material with like aeroboard sort of stuff, and then there's an underlying layer of mild steel as well. The mild steel thickness in these is only about 1/32 of an inch, or maybe 2.5 millimeter, or maybe something around that, and it's shaped into a shape, and it works really well. You can have different shapes, but it was amazing how the flame pushed across and not a hope of it being stopped. So I just wonder about that a lot. That's news in itself. And the idea that I shouldn't mention the burning down or have a news article on the burning down of McDonald's anywhere, I mean, everyone knows them. I've been known when stuck, and badly stuck, to partake of a Big Mac meal myself when I was stuck a few times. But the thing about it is, and when I was in London with youngsters years ago, we were looking at 400 and 500 euros for a basic meal. That's how expensive it was, because I wasn't sure of it. Only for McDonald's, we were in trouble. So there was that to it. I'm not particularly criticising them. Now, they consume beef as well, which I produce. Now, the thing about it is, we next go to the cause of the fire, which is reported as electric car. And you have to remember, I wasn't there. If I was there in time, I'd bull in and look at it and check it and get out quick before anyone would see me. But I wasn't there. And I asked everyone that was there, anyone that was there, to comment on what it was. And I said that the flame coming out from under the passenger seat had all the hallmarks of the fire of an EV battery, a lithium-ion battery. Now, it must be remembered, when any car goes up on flames, if it gets to the tyres, the tyres burn, and there's a very intense flame from the tyres. Ordinary cars can go on fire. In this particular one, if you look at some of the photographs, you'll see that the flames blew out the lamp, and they're coming out where the lamp is. Now, I'm nearly sure all Mercedes, in fact every car, has to have a bulkhead where the suspension spring goes up into, and that the wheel base is not directly connected to the lamp housing. There's a bulkhead between the two, so the flame shouldn't have got out there, so it must have come from the engine. Okay? Now, Moncusab 100 makes the point that there's a computer control unit underneath the passenger seat. Apparently, if that's to be right, and I have to say, I asked for contributions on this. I didn't say I knew it all. And he claims it's a Mercedes. It's an E204 model. I have no computer at the minute, and it's on this that I'm recording on. Anyway, it was a Mercedes 2010-2014, and I have to say the back boot of it has all the hallmarks again of a Mercedes. It looks like that. I'm not quite sure, but it's a saloon car anyway. And remember, on the ships the Felicity Ace and on the ships the Fremantle Highway, they were packed full of German cars, many of which were Mercedes. So this computer control unit, what is this made of? Is this itself a fire hazard? Could that have lithium-ion in it? Seems improbable. He makes the point about the pipe from the tank. Well, does he think that I should presume it's he, don't know about the pipe from the tank? I fitted them several times, and the pipes coming up and what they're made of and everything else, they're usually a hard plastic material. They're usually well protected. Yes, of course it could have leaked. Of course there could have been something wrong and it got down. The next question is, how did it catch fire? Was it an electrical fault? What made it catch fire? So right now, what we don't know, there was a report in the local paper, the Nationalist, that it was a diesel car. And the burning of that car is not commensurate with diesel. Could it be petrol? More like petrol. Where did the huge black flames come from? All of this is subjective. All of this is theoretical. And how do police forces solve a murder? Only look at the various scenarios and look at the suspects and fine-tune them down, eliminating them as they go along. So this is the point. And remember, in Francis Street, on that same day in Francis Street in Dublin 8, an e-scooter with the same battery went on fire and the place had to be evacuated. In New York, these scooters with the same battery were the main cause of fires in apartment complexes in New York in the last 12 months. Now, that doesn't mean that ordinary cars are perfectly safe and free from fire, but what is universally agreed is that when a fire takes place with an electric car involved, so if it's on a ferry or a ship and an ordinary car goes on fire or something starts the car going on fire, you can't put it out by ordinary water fire brigade measures. It has its own oxidizer. All of that is true, and I stand behind that 100%. In fact, I may actually do a video for a test. Now, we don't know. By now, you would think someone would issue a statement. When these things happen, there's always a cool and down period till people get to investigate and get to check. We may never know. We may never actually know, because thankfully there were no injuries or no deaths, so they may just treat it as a bit of damage. We may never know. But I would suggest that McDonald's burning like that is a concern on its own. It's a concern. Now, I would think if the roof went on fire, They have the fire drill. There's no doubt that's all done. There's no doubt the management and staff behaved impeccably. Fair play. And there's no doubt the fire brigade did everything they could. Yet the place went up. So there are huge issues in this. Let's see if there'll be anything in the Sunday papers. If there is, I'll probably invest in a Sunday paper. So you can comment here early Sunday morning if it's in any of them. Now bear in mind I'm banned off Twitter. So I can't get that, and I didn't sign up for TikTok yet. So all of that comes to the conclusion that I'm being criticised. Now I'm used to tackling and fighting on internet and Facebook with lefties and those who are mad about government policy and green energy. And the hallmark of all those is, if you question government, you're a wrong one. You're a wrong one to question government. That's never done with the lefties because they are ultimately communists like North Korea and China. The government lays down the rules, you follow them, and dare you object. That is not the track of my hatchet, and I would never try to convince people who are of that mindset to change, because I know it's not logic, it was never reasoned into them, and it can't be reasoned out of them. So what we have to do is try and convince the bulk of people who are capable of reconsidering and forming a new opinion. Okay, so as I say, as of now, the evidence of it being an electric vehicle is there from the ferocity of the flames, but it's not conclusive. The look of the car and the model of the car would tend me to think that it may not be an electric car, and it may not even be a hybrid, because most of the hybrids were sort of remodeled to a more high based or made differently with big wheels. And the Volkswagen electric car, which I drove, have bigger wheels. It's certainly not a Nissan Leaf. So all of that means that we're trying to find out exactly what it is. And I believe I've contributed there. And you look at the response. The second chap, I remember now what it was. Cats Can Fly said it is a Merc. So there you are. I believe that. That chap didn't say that without him, Mercedes, without him having some reason. So we have to take a certain amount of this on board and try and get to the end. And I do undertake, if I'm still on the land of the living, when we hear what actually happened, to make a brief video to set the record straight. Doesn't take away from the fact that there is, in my opinion, when you have a car ferry, two car ferries gone down, one gone down and the other stricken, the Fremantle Highway in 12 months, with I suppose very nearly 6,000 cars, German cars, on board. What can happen if the very same is on a ferry? Has there been any inquiry? Has the Health and Safety Authority looked at it? Has anyone looked at it? Anywhere? And I believe they won't look at it because their governments are seized and gripped by Greta Thunberg, by AOC Cortez. We mustn't rock the boat or do anything to damage the market for electric cars. You go into a garage at the minute to buy a new car, and they'll come down on you to buy an electric car. They're mad to sell them. That's that's all right. Do whatever you wish. I can only warn you. I made a video about bringing a hammer and using a hammer. Don't forget, no, I think the right way to get out of the car if you're stuck in it. So, folks, that's it. I think all told, I did not come out and say it was an electric car fire. I said it has all the hallmarks of an electric car fire. The colour of the smoke is commensurate with that, and that's a telltale sign. But it could be a computer-controlled unit, and it could be something of that nature. And if it is, then surely it's worthy of investigation. The idea that a computer unit would be stored under the seat somewhere so that it's between the passenger seat and the road. I mean, a few times when I'd be going on rough terrain, I might hit something on the bottom, and that's a bit scary of itself. Right, folks, give me a thumbs up and a thumbs down, or if you don't agree, and comment underneath at what you think is the real situation and how I actually covered it. And if you think I didn't cover it well, make that criticism, and please don't use buzzwords. Just say in plain English what you see wrong. Bye. We'll see you back for something else. Good luck. Thank you.